Okay, so how to configure a firewall. Hello, could you please explain how to configure a firewall, Raji? So this is not necessarily, thank you, Raji, again for submitting another ticket. This is not something that you would necessarily do as a help desk person, but because this is done uh, automatically with the group policy that is controlled by your domain controller. So domain controller is, well, let me make this so as simple as possible to understand. So you know how you have your login account, right? To whatever you use to log into your computer. In a business environment, that login account is part of Active Directory. Active Directory is basically a place where all the logins reside, people's names, computers' names, and etc. Active Directory is part of a domain, and domain can also control group policies for users and computers, and firewall restrictions are controlled by that. However, I will show you locally where this firewall can be applied. Okay, and there are some rules, and I'm only going to talk about it briefly just so you guys get an idea what's happening with this firewall and how it's applied. But it's not something you would be doing necessarily, but I'm only going to talk about so you guys can benefit at least something. You can at least learn something from it, right? At least get an idea of what's going on. So if you just go to a search here, right, then you type in firewall, let's see what happens, right? We got a couple of different options. We got Windows Defender Firewall with advanced security app, and then we got Windows Defender Firewall control panel. And then we got firewall and network protection here, and we can, we can check all of these here. And then we got check firewall status, allow an app through Windows Firewall. So there are different ways of going about this, and what the main thing is when it comes to firewall is to kind of get an idea how firewall works. So the first thing I've selected here is Windows Defender Firewall and Advanced Security. You can see right away that this won't work like this because it needs administrator privilege. It says you do not have the correct permission to open Windows Defender Firewall with Advanced Security Console. You must be a member of administrator group or network. So you need administrator privileges, and this is why I purposely just clicked on it, so you guys can see that if you are a help desk person that does not have administrator privileges, you're not going to be able to open this to begin with. So here it is, same thing, Windows Defender Firewall with Advanced Security, and this is what I actually wanted to show you as the main thing. These other ones are just kind of sub parts of it, and it's not something that you necessarily have to worry about to get an idea specifically of how firewalls block things and access things. And I shouldn't say access, how they block the outgoing or incoming traffic for your computer. This is just to give you an idea. This is not necessarily exactly how group policy works when it comes to firewalls. So I'm going to right click it and I'm going to run as administrator, so that way we can see an example of it. Here it is. Now it just comes up like this. So we got a couple of different things that I want you to concentrate on, and that is inbound rules, and then we got outbound rules. Inbound rules means that these are all rules, right? These are rules whether an application is allowed to receive inbound connection, the meaning internet inbound connection coming from the internet. Inbound rules meaning to receive data. So inbound meaning to receive data. Receive data inbound. It could be either from internet, which is typical, right, or from the local network. But in the end, it's just the inbound rule for inbound traffic coming in to your computer, inside to your computer, so inbound data. And we can set up new rules here, and it's very simple. You just select an we'll do a simple one. And if you scroll through here, you can see there are already a bunch of rules, basically saying whether they're allowed or that they're not allowed to receive inbound data. All right, inbound data, and we got bunch of different things. And if you select one, you can disable them, delete them. So these are all custom rules that are made. So how are these rules made? Well, let's make one, and we'll make one for outbound as well. But this is inbound. So again, for incoming data, incoming into your computer. And here it is. The simplest way to explain this is if you select a program that's going to be blocked from receiving data. So if you just, it's very kind of intuitive at this point to explain it. Let's just stick with the program. So that means we're looking for executable.exe file. And if I select next, then all I have to do is find a program path. You don't want to do all programs here. This is like if you create a custom rule or whatnot, but we're going to find a specific program we're going to block. And I'm going to show you how this works in the end. So what we're going to do here, we're going to block, let's see, which one can I find easily? So that way we can remove it later. Let's see. Do I want to block Chrome? Let's block Chrome. We're going to block Chrome. So here's Chrome works fine, right? It gets to google.com fine. So we're going to have to set up inbound and outbound. Because if I just do inbound, it's not going to necessarily work all the way. It's going to block some things. So we're going to browse for Chrome. We're going to browse, and Chrome, I believe, is under program files x86. And there it is, Google. Well, I guess I was wrong. Maybe maybe Chrome is a 64-bit application. x86 means it's a 32-bit application. So if I go to program files, these are 64-bit applications. Here's Chrome. So I'm just navigating through the folders to find Chrome executable. And here it is, Chrome. And if I right-click it, go to properties, you can see that the Chrome is an application, and it's an executable. So that's exactly what we need. We're going to select that. And now we're pointing to where Chrome resides. And this is very important because we're telling this rule that we haven't yet, but we will tell it to block. To block inbound data coming in. So we're going to click next. And I'm going to select block the connection. Block the connection just to keep it simple. And you can see that you get different options here where you can look at later. But then again, for help desk, I'm going to make sure that you guys understand this as a starting point for somebody, especially who's new to IT and wants to expand their knowledge. So, all right, here we go. We are selected to block the connection for the inbound. We're going to select next. And it says, what do you want this applied to? Do you want to apply this at domain level, meaning at work, right? Usually work is going to, at your work, company you work for is going to use a domain type of environment. All right. And then we got a private, which is usually at home, private type of connection. So they're speaking of different network connections here. Where do you want this? Do you want to block this at domain level? Or do you want to block this at private level, which is at home, or public level, sort of like a Wi-Fi hotspot at your local coffee shop? All right, so we're going to leave the check marks telling it to actually block it for all of them. But you can change rules here and modify it. But we're just going to keep going just to give an example of what happens. We're going to call it here. And the next, after clicking next, we're going to call it Chrome inbound block. Data block, and copy paste, same thing for description, so we can find it later on, so we can remove it later on because we don't want to block Chrome all the way. But we will block Chrome now, so we're going to test it out. I'm going to select finish, and there's our rule that we created right now. So Chrome is still going to work because the outbound hasn't been blocked, but some things will not work. The websites will be broken, this and that, because it won't be able to receive some of the data coming through. All right, and then let's do the same thing for outbound. Outbound means connection being sent out from your computer. Whenever you are trying to send data from your computer, this is going to be blocked now. So let's say you're uploading a file. Let's say whenever I upload this video to the YouTube, my outbound connection has to be free, If it's blocked by a firewall, it's not going to work. So anything that requires you to send data, and that's like same thing as like if you were to navigate a website, like the input that you do, things you type in a website, that's all outbound. You are sending that data. So let's create a rule, and it's going to be the same deal as we've done for the inbound. So I'm just going to run through it. So it's a program, browse, find Chrome executable, select next, block connection just like before, same thing. It's just for outbound, same thing here for the domain, private and public. Next, we're just going to call it Chrome outbound data block. Okay, and then we're going to finish. All right, now let's see if Chrome is working. And I'm going to do a big zoom out here. And this is just the starting page. Let's go to google.com. Here we go. And it's thinking about it, and here it is. The site cannot be reached, can't be reached. The web page is at blah, 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 might be temporarily down or may have moved permanently to new web address. But we know that here it says error, quick protocol error. Doesn't really tell us much that in this fact it's actually the firewall that's blocking it, right? So I'm going to leave this up here so you guys can see, and then I'm going to go through and delete those rules that we've just created. So here's our inbound. Keep in mind, when you're looking at these rules here, that if you're not going to be able to find both inbound and outbound in the same place here. So you have to select inbound here on the left in order to find the inbound block. And here it is. So I'm just going to right click it, and I can disable it or I can delete it. In this case, I'm just going to delete it. So that's inbound. And then outbound, same thing. I'm going to right click and delete it. Okay. And I'm just going to do F5 here to refresh. And there it is. It works perfectly fine. And that's how you do this. Now, guys, just so you know, whenever I was recording the first part of this firewall speech, my video actually lost audio. So the part where I note this ticket is unfortunately gone because I already closed the ticket. I apologize for that, but we're going to continue nonetheless with other tickets. And yeah, that's pretty much all you can do when it comes to explanation of firewall for help desk. And if you want to get into networking, I have some networking videos, but as help desk, you don't have to go any further than this. But I highly encourage that you do learn more if you are interested or if it's easy to understand.